Well, welcome to the show. We have got a very special half-hour show for you today. Actually, what we're doing is we're spending some time with Kimberly Campbell, who's the state director for AARP. Thank you for being here on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we've got three subjects that we're going to talk about in these segments that we're going to be doing this morning. And one of them is going to be the elections coming up in November. Then we're going to take a break and come back and talk about the census, which is going on right now, I believe it is. And then we're going to come back and talk about family caregiving, which is something very important. So you don't necessarily have to be a member of AARP to find this interesting, because there's so many things that we're going to be talking about during this half hour that's going to, something is going you'll find important to you. So thanks for coming down from Jackson.
Thanks for having me. I always have a good time when I'm here.
I know. It's a pleasure having you down here. Well, a lot of people are concerned this year, Kimberly, about the elections coming up November 4th. Whether they're going to be, how they're going to vote, are they going to be able to vote, is it going to be safe to vote, safely casting the ballot, absentee ballots, is it going to be okay? So tell us some things we need to know about this.
Right. Well, first of all, so far in Mississippi, the legislature has only made one slight change to our election process, and that would be for COVID. Usually to vote absentee, you've got to be, permanently disabled, be out of the county or the country or so forth. Well, now there is an extra one that's added saying if you have been exposed to COVID-19, or it's got to have doctor's excuse, you've got to turn in this documentation, or if you're caring for someone that has been exposed or has COVID, then you will be eligible to vote absentee. So we always want to remind people, in Mississippi, we don't have early voting. So, many times people are looking at the national news and they'll get confused. They'll say, well, they keep talking about early voting. We don't have early voting. We have absentee voting, which is different. Absentee means you've got to have one of those reasons that are set out in the statute to be able to vote absentee. Now, if you're voting in person, the Secretary of State, Mike Watson, has said they're ready. They're going to have, parameters in place for protection, whether it's the 6 to 8 feet standing apart. We're telling everybody, please continue to wear your mask when you go vote, sanitizer, within the polling place. And so you've got to be vigilant as well. But we really want to make sure that people that were 65 and older, that they did know about the absentee provisions for them to vote.
Now, this is one of the big things, too, as far as doing, I know there's some states that are saying, well, we're going to vote by mail.
Yes.
And I've already heard of some states up north that one gentleman got 2 ballots in the mail.
Right.
Same name. So, a lot of people are worried about election fraud.
And we don't have that in Mississippi. So at this point, the election can't always come back and make some changes.
Yes.
But as of right now, that is not something that Mississippi is going to be allowing. So Mississippi is going to allow absentee with those set out procedures, or voting in person.
Now, if you were to register to vote,
you're
going to vote regular way, go to the polls, do your due diligence.
That's right.
What's the deadline for getting registered?
That's right. I have to double check. I want to say the deadline to register is
October 5th.
October 5th is the deadline. Now, there are 2 ways you can register. You can either go in person to your county clerk's office, or you can look online with the Mississippi Secretary of State's office, and you can download those forms, although those forms will still have to be mailed to your county court clerk's office. So it just depends if you want to just download it and mail it, or if you want to physically go to the county clerk's office and register. But we want you to get registered. So we're telling everybody, especially those young kids that are just turning 18, I have an 18-year-old, a fresh 18-year-old, so that she just got registered last week. So she just turned 18 in June, and so she's looking forward to being able to cast her first vote come November 3rd.
And it's a privilege. It's an honor.
It is a privilege. It is an honor. So many people have fought really hard for all of us to have whether it's women or minorities, to have the right to vote, and so and to be able to vote safely. And so we really want to encourage everybody to get out, because that's your voice. That's your voice. Now, with AARP, some of the things that we, of course, will be asking the candidates, whether it's when we get to the presidential elections or dealing with, because this year we will have the Senate race again, dealing with our incumbent Senator Hyde-Smith, and she will be challenged by Mike Espy. I'm not sure at this point if anyone else is going to be in that race, but we
Right.
know they will be in a race together. You know, we'll be asking things that are important to our 50 plus and older demographic, which is protecting Social Security, protecting, you know, Medicare. You know, all these things are really important. You know, where are they going to stand to make these programs, you know, solve it, not only for those that are 65 now, but also for future generations. And so these are the things that, you know, when you say, why doesn't this work well in my state, or the money, that you want to be a part of this process. So we want you to register, we want you to vote, we want you to be safe though. We want you to be
right.
concerned about your safety, and also know that you can vote absentee depending if you fall into one of those categories.
How do they get an absentee ballot?
You've got to get it from your county clerk's office. Your
Okay.
county clerk's office will give you that absentee ballot if you check off one of those boxes, and for COVID, you've got to give the documentation.
Which is the doctor's excuse.
Which is the doctor's excuse, correct? It is correct.
So now people go to vote in person.
Yes.
They need to have a photo ID.
They need to have photo ID, so do not forget that. Many counties, and I believe still the Secretary of State's office, at least they used to still provide government issued IDs if you just did not have one, but it's very rare that someone does not have one. But if you don't have one, please contact one of these agencies to see how you can get one. It can be driver's license, it can just be straight photo ID that's valid, that's validating your address,
Right.
that you live in that area, so you can have your ID the day that you go to vote.
And when you go to vote, you know, sometimes they have a tendency they might change things around where.
Yes,
But you
yes.
go to the same place for the November election. You
Right,
go to the same
you
place.
go to the same place.
Right.
Now, if there is going to be a change, the polling precincts and locations will let you know that. But for the most part, wherever you went last time, go to that same place, unless you've moved. Now, if you've moved and you have not changed your registration, now that's something that you need to do as
Yes.
well. Go change your registration so you can change where your voting will then be.
Can you do that online?
I do not think you can just do that online. You may be able to download the form, but it's still going to have to be mailed off.
Right. Because you have to show the
Right.
proof of where
Right.
you have moved to.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so Tuesday, November 3rd. I said November
Yes.
4th early.
Yes, yes,
November
yes.
3rd. Polls open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That's standard throughout the state of Mississippi.
What?
If you ever go and to vote on election day, if you are in line by 7,
Right.
even if you don't get up there to 10, they still have to let you vote. So
Yeah.
if you're in line at 7, you will be allowed to cast your vote.
And of course, we're going to mention the key races in the state again.
Yes.
The president,
Of course.
U.S. Senate,
Yes.
incumbent Cindy Hyde-Smith, who will be against Mike Espy,
Right.
and then all 4 seats in the U.S. House.
That's it. That's it.
That's awesome. Well, there's a lot of great information there. We appreciate that. When it comes down, if you have any questions, of course, you can go to AARP's website.
That's right.
And
That's
they've
right.
got all kinds of great information for that. And we're going to take a quick little break here, and we're going to come back with Kimberly again, and we're going to talk about the census.
Yes,
and how
yes.
important that is.
And some of the scams.
I know there are. All right.
Yeah.
Hang around. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back in just a moment and take a look at what's going on with the census in Mississippi.